And there we are. Welcome back, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. I was trying to position Daniel there, sitting in the chair again, keeping me company like he usually does when I'm here. I don't have any other cats around at the moment. I see some of you have already been here. D-Lo is here. Bams, Helter, Dragon. Doc is here. He says, I actually made it to the beginning of the program. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Much appreciated. Keisha is here. Oh, wow. There's a lot of going on here. There is Paranoid Prepper. Boogers is here. Preparedness Veteran. And Mandanimal is here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Friday, August 11th. And for those of you listening and not watching, I am on at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube and Prepper University as well. And I can be found on fistfulofradio.com, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Friday at noon. Come here. Oh, special guest star for those of you watching. Uncle. Say hi to everybody, Uncle. How you doing, buddy? Sit down. You come to keep me company? Somebody had to. Erica is here. And Armored Ghost is here. Did no one in Hawaii expect fire was possible? No, they didn't. Does anybody? Very few people actually prepare for anything anymore. They expect for state, city, federal services to clean up the mess for them. They don't expect to have to do anything themselves anymore because now big government will take care of it. Big government's got your back. It's going to keep you safe. Yeah, that was Uncle. He's down on the floor. He jumped down again. That's him. 20 pounds of feline. Big old Uncle Cat. And then, of course, Daniel sleeping in the chair back there. And, of course, that prompts me to, again, thank everybody who has thus far been involved in the GoFundMe project for the stray cats that we take care of and the occasional dog. We do get a dog every once in a while. So thank you very much, everyone who participated in that. It really means a lot. I see Urban is here. Urban Angst, hello. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. As we'll jump in here. I know we had somebody yesterday that had a biblical question, and I can answer that question, but I just don't I don't know if they're here or not. So we'll wait a while before we get around to that, just in case, and then I'll just go ahead and talk about it real briefly, because they may watch it another time. I see Tennessee Patriot is here. He says, hello, everybody. And the question, of course, was I had made a point that the idea of loving the sinner and hating the sin is a modern romanticized Christian construct that's only been around for a few decades. It's not supported biblically. And he wanted me to demonstrate that in the Bible, but then you're asking me to demonstrate a negative. If it's not in there, it's not in there. That's like asking me to demonstrate basketball in the Bible. There's nothing about basketball. So, but I can explain where the misconception comes from. I can make an attempt at that, and that's why I wanted to wait, because I wanted to ask my wife about a few verses first before I just jumped on that. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get started with some topics, and we'll get back to that later in case they show up, and we'll talk about it anyways if you're interested. Anarchy says hi from rural Minnesota. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us today again, everybody. And today we're going to be talking a little bit, looking at some news snippets. We're going to be talking about Best Buy. Best Buy is in trouble. Best Buy is in trouble. They're facing a big lawsuit for discrimination. And this one is in the Washington Examiner. And again, I just grab, whatever news article catches my eye, and you can look this up anywhere you like in whatever news capacity floats your boat, as they say. I'm reading off the Washington Examiner, and it says, time to Bud Light Best Buy. Best Buy faces blowback for leadership training program that excludes white applicants. And I was looking to see if I could find an actual copy of it because it's an online digital course. And I don't have an actual photo of the online digital course, but this does quote exactly what was in it because I've seen it. I've seen the images of the course, but I don't have one here. And I know it's correct when I read it on the Washington Examiner's page here. If it'll scroll, the ads are trying to get me. God, I hate that. Can't do anything without freaking ads, can you? It's insane. Where we've been left in society. Here we go. The program started in 2022. Oh, here it is. They do have an actual copy of the file. All right. But O'Keefe's viral post on Tuesday spurred social media users to call for boycotting Best Buy the way other boycotters have treated Bud Light. And this is the actual application. It won't. Will it expand? If it expands, I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't see it. But I'll just go ahead and keep reading anyways. Doc Galt says, I haven't been to Best Buy in probably 20 years. You're not missing much. It's not the same anymore. It's time to Bud Light Best Buy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The Best Buy memo laid out opportunities for employees to accelerate their place in management in the company if they met certain qualifications. And again, you can look this up like where I'm showing you right here. This is the McKinsey Management and Leadership Academy program. And you can find images of this online now because, again, it was a computer contact. There's no actual printed paper. Quote, we're excited to announce awesome news about the McKinney Professional Development Programs. As a part of Best Buy's commitment to develop and support our employees, we've partnered with McKinsey & Company to offer McKinsey leadership programs. The memo reportedly from Best Buy said these professional development programs customize its curriculum and discussions to the unique situations, experiences, and opportunities of diverse professionals. You know you're in trouble right there already. The program would help with management acceleration and enhance their leadership through a mini MBA style curriculum. It would teach strategy development, critical thinking, networking, and problem solving, basically dumping your problems off on an employee who's not at the same rank level as you. To qualify for the program, here it comes. The memo states that employees must be in a salaried role, have worked more than a year at Best Buy, and identify as Black, Latino, Hispanic, Asian, or Pacific Islander, and can commit to the hours of the available programs. So yeah, that pretty much cuts out anyone from who's Caucasian and actually from the Middle East as well. So if you're Caucasian or you're Middle Eastern, you don't qualify. Doesn't that violate your rights? Isn't that a civil rights violation? This swings open the door really wide for a big lawsuit, and whoever does it will win. Because if you can sit there and you can say, hey, I'm not Black, Latino, Hispanic, Asian, or Pacific Islander, I was overlooked for this program, or I felt intimidated out of entering this program, you got a nice fat lawsuit. You have a nice fat lawsuit and you'll win. Just like that just happened recently, and someone was awarded $26 million from Starbucks because Starbucks did something like this a couple of years back and they got hemmed up with it. Let me see who catch up some of the comments here. And I do try to read through the comments for the people that are listening and not watching so they can keep up. Preparedness says ad block ultimate equals limited adverts on most websites. Never see an ad on YouTube. Okay. And Urban says, I stopped shopping at Best Buy years ago, regardless of their color. Their tweeny staff were increasingly clueless and unable to answer basic electronics questions. That's true. You used to be able to go into these places and they knew the product. Remember the days of Radio Shack? Radio Shack required you to know every damn product they had in there and how it worked. You don't get that anymore. These guys don't know anything. And when you ask them a question, they type it up on the computer and they read the little paragraph that's under the product, you can do that your damn self. I mean, that is annoying. You're getting a lot of that in hardware stores now too. When you go to like Lowe's or Home Depot, if you shop there, and you ask a question and they have to call someone who calls somebody else who calls a guy who might know, or they find the oldest person there. Preparedness says selective recruitment always turns against the parent company in the end. Absolutely. And Paranoid says, don't all employees go Mexican, black, thin, then all others thin, white for employment? I don't know. Dragon says, note they say identify as the race. I had tacos today, so I guess I'll put Latino down for that field. I bet you won't get away with that if you did that on the thing. That only counts for gender these days. Helter says, go to any large corporation's diversity page. You can see how unwelcome straight white men are. They basically advertise that all hiring and promotions will be based upon skin and or hair color. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And then you end up with a lot of unqualified people or people who don't give a damn about the job. All People says, wow, so on top of eliminating white people, worst by also did not include Amerindians. Yeah, that's right. Good point. There's no Native Indians are not included there. Native Indians are not included there. That's a good observation. And then Doc says, in 2023, if you're part of the pretender group, you can claim to be anyone. And Paranoid says, I went camping and had to pee on fire. Does that make me a fire hydrant? No, but it might make you a fireman. You identify as a fireman. But that's what they're doing here. But yeah, you're right. They don't have, they're kicking out Native Indians as well as Caucasians and people from the Middle East. And I'm sure there's a couple of other groups that could squeeze in here as well. You shouldn't, it's foolish to specifically target this way. But they did, and it's catching up with them now. And as dead as it is in Best Buys, in today's day and age, now that they no longer carry digital media, I mean, not digital media, but they don't have DVDs anymore. They don't have CDs anymore. They don't sell computer software anymore. When they did away with a lot of that stuff, fewer and fewer people shop at Best Buy anymore. If you can go into a Best Buy right now, there'll be more employees than there are customers. And again, like it was pointed out earlier, a lot of the employees, they don't know what they're doing. So it makes the shopping experience uncomfortable. I know because I had to, I bought my camera from them like, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe longer. And it was not easy. It wasn't easy to get an employee. And then, there's employees walking around, but you have to go and schedule for an employee to come to talk to you. And then they don't know anything. It's insane. It's insane the way that works. But this is the way of the world. And they got caught up. They got caught up in this. And they will pay for it because somebody will sue them. And they'll win. They're going to win. SDA says same here in Toronto, Canada with Best Buy. Yeah, and a lot of other stores too, because Canada's a lot worse than the United States when it comes to that kind of stuff. Canada, they're arresting priests and ministers and pastors for reading out of the Old Testament because someone's feelings might get hurt. Someone's feelings might get hurt. Then what are you doing in church? Well, I mean, modern church has changed quite a bit, especially after the pandemic. And then Doc says everyone shops at Amazon now. I don't know anyone that shops at Best Buy, but I live in a very rural area. Yeah, I mean, Amazon has taken over a lot of that. You do have to be careful though with Amazon because you can end up with a lot of junk as we roll into the next subject, which kind of ties in to a degree. And this comes off of Fox News, reading this off Fox News. Chicago professor dismisses meritocracy as myth, advocates for CRT false reality. And it's really interesting. Essentially, and I glanced this over, basically, they're trying to explain how studying chemistry is now racist as well as everything else. It's all racist, folks. Maybe they ought to move to it. Mars is becoming available soon. Maybe people ought to move to Mars and stay there. A University of Illinois Chicago assistant professor believes critical race theory, CRT, can be integrated into chemistry lessons. Really, just screw up another university. This is just somebody who wants to get into the news. They want to get noticed because that doesn't make any sense. Terrell Morton, an identity and justice in STEM education scholar. Oh my God, that's a class. Identity and justice in STEM education scholar. Wow. Talk about a useless title. Wrote an article in Nature to highlight the racial disparities in the chemistry and science fields and offer ways to practice CRT in order to address the underrepresentation. What chemicals are being underrepresented? He asked sarcastically. Critical race theory is a controversial philosophy and progressive idea that proponents say can increase racial equity and which critics describe as Marxist, anti-American, and neo-racist. Morton defines critical race theory as a compilation of provocative writings that challenges us to consider the relationship between race, the legal system, and society at large, which is the definition from the book Critical Race Theory. So he's just mimicking key points from a book. The key writings that formed the movement. You know who did that? Goebbels. Because that's where this really comes from. If we're going to backtrack and be real honest about it. After listing several incidents of police brutality against unarmed African Americans, Morton mentioned that the push for racial justice calls for a need to turn to critical race theory in order to address anti-Black racism. I didn't know any of those riots involved chemistry. Maybe there were Molotov cocktails being used. I don't know what to say about that. That's insane. That is insane. Keisha says, I ordered a refurbished computer from Walmart and it was a piece of junk. Excuse me, I bet it was. And preparedness says MSM divisiveness and target-driven divisiveness is bringing society to a tilt point. One wonders how it will all end. Badly. I'm sure you knew that. SDA says, I bought a 5 CD player with radio at the secondhand store for $15. It works good. It's old school. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in a long time. And Dragon says mediocrity is celebrated because it makes it easier for the government to control us. You won't mind the government or will even worship it as it gives you stuff and status. Yeah, everybody wants something free until there's no more money for that. And All People says, ever notice how both the U.S. and the Western world have no history of racism being screamed out every 5 seconds until immigration laws were reformed in the mid-1960s and demographics were changed? Interesting point. And Delo says Best Buy is overpriced. Yeah, well, actually, they kind of are, aren't they? This is just ridiculous. And it's a shame that he even gets press in the first place. I guess this is him running his mouth here. But what are you going to do? All you can do is avoid that. And also, if you are a parent who has a child who is coming of age to enter college or university, keep in mind, the college campus life, university lifestyle that had been a staple for so many, many years, many decades, is dead. Started dying in the 90s and no longer exists. And all they're going there for now is to get peer pressured into indoctrination. And you don't need to go to college to find a good job or to be happy. You know what I mean? Oh, who is that? Delo says he's crying out for attention. Yeah, very likely. Stacy is here. He says, made it. Happy Friday. And Paranoid says old school stuff is the best. Yeah, especially if it's solid state. We talked about that a little bit over the last couple of days because of the sunspots or the corona mass ejections. That solid state holds up better under that sort of thing. Helter says, I worked in the corporate world for years. It was completely dominated by women. The hot girls always get promoted. The high turnover and layoff rates are also insane. Oh, but what about the glass ceiling, Helter? What about the glass ceiling? Yeah, when you see it and it doesn't add up, it makes you think. when you actually experience it, like I've talked about my experiences with the justice system, my experiences with social workers and other things, which are also female dominated, not judges. If you're in the justice system, most judges are going to be male, but all of the people that work for them, especially if it's family court, the case managers, the court conciliators, and people like this are all female. All the people in the pool who handle the records keeping are female. That's how I almost got arrested once, because a warrant was issued for my ex pertaining to her not cooperating with a court conciliator, and they put the warrant on me instead of her, because obviously in a child custody case, I must be the one that it's for. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. A lot of probation officers, most social workers, most teachers, most pediatricians now are female. It's crazy. Yet they have no opportunities. Glass ceiling, everybody. And John is here. He says, Cat Shepherd, yes, indeed. And you may not be able to see, but there is Daniel sleeping in the chair, if you're watching, keeping me company as I broadcast. Dad was here a minute ago. Not Dad. Uncle the cat was here a minute ago. Keisha says, how did you get out of being arrested? How did I get out of being arrested? That's an interesting story. Basically, the conciliator was told by her sister was a social worker. Her sister kept tabs on people for her, which was a violation of her oath of office, by the way, and saw my name pop up in the system and told my ex, who told the conciliator, so that she could brag that she was going to get me arrested by calling in the warrant. And the conciliator, and this was going to happen on a visitation swap, and the conciliator told her not to do that. If you absolutely must call in the warrant, at least do it on the return. Don't interrupt the visitation, because it's a 2-week visit. It's for Christmas. Okay. Doc Galt made a reference to Judge Wapner there. Cuff him, Rusty. Yeah, indeed. So when the conciliator found that out, she actually told me and wanted to know how it is that my ex knew I was going to get a warrant. That's not something the public would know about. And I told her, I was like, hey, her sister told her. Her sister works for Child Protective Services, and she always does that. She picks through, which again is a violation of the code of her office. It's something that she could be fired for, and eventually was, by the way. So I called my attorney. He called the judge, told the judge to check on it, and the judge went and found out that the clerks in the filing office for the family court mixed that up and had them undo it. So when I came to pick him up for the Christmas visit and was surrounded by police, and they wanted to know, they were looking for, we heard that so-and-so was driving a car like this, and we need to see your ID to make sure you're not such and such person, and gave me a fake name. I forget the name they told me. And I told them, no, you're not. You think you're looking for me, but you're not. There's no warrant. Here's my ID. And then he goes and he checks the computer and comes back, and he was like, yeah, you don't have a warrant. What the hell's going on here? And I said, you see those two women sitting in that car right there? This is supposed to be a visitation exchange, and this is how she's interrupting it. And he went and he told her to get that kid here within the next 30 minutes, and he's going to be back. And if it hasn't worked itself out, there's going to be problems. And she went and got him. So the things you have to go through in family court. All People says Morton's lying. The African-American ethnic group consists of congenital slave descendants who never scream racism. The other blacks are migrant descendants. Yeah, All People gets on that a lot, and I understand why. I'm not picking on you. He says he put it on there twice. Yeah, there is a difference of group, and I've talked about that before because of my wife's ethnicity, that there is the core people that are descendants, but they are a minority amongst the black people that are in the United States, most of which migrated to America after the fact. And D'Lo says, I'm dealing with the court system right now as we speak. I feel for you. I really do. Cougar says, late but here. Well, thanks for joining us, Cougar. Yeah, children, you're in trouble. It's always bad when it's kids in court. Urban says, the first upload I saw was from middle class to no class where you detail what happened. What a story. Yeah, indeed. It's a disaster. And ongoing. Keisha made a $2 donation to the channel. Thank you, Keisha. And Daniel back there thanks you. I don't know if you can see Daniel. Oops, I'm screwing the camera up here now. There he is, sleeping in the chair, and there he goes. Daniel, everybody. But yeah, thank you very much for that. Every donation goes a long way towards helping to take care of all of the strays that we look after. We got a ton of them in the yard. And D'Lo says, I hate the family court. Yeah, and it's corrupt. It's corrupt, and you don't have any rights there. Your rights are whatever the judge tells you they are. Literally. That's about what it boils down to. And then All People says, we're so glad that you and your current wife met, fell in love, got married, and are now and will continue living happily ever after. Well, thank you, All People. And she's fantastic. And I use her as a testimony, as a matter of fact, having come out of a couple of really bad relationships, making some terrible choices on my part, to be with somebody and realize that everything they tell you about relationships is wrong. Oh, it's healthy for you to fight and all this other stuff. No, it's not. We don't fight. We don't argue. We don't yell at each other. We don't cuss or talk bad on each other. We don't tell other people our business. None of that goes on. And we still have a loving, healthy relationship. We enjoy being around each other. We do things together all the time. We work out together every day. You know, we worked together. We don't anymore, but we did when we both worked for mental health, worked in the same location on the same floor together, and we're fine. We were fine. We get along fantastic. And so it can happen. It can happen. People just make bad choices. Like I made bad choices with my previous exes that I've talked about, where I got into all kinds of problems because I was trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. Doc says, I'm Doug Llewellyn. Remember, don't take the law into your own hands. Yeah, take them to court. Yeah, now all those court shows are all drama and mess. All People says, it's nice to see a happy Christian couple. And then D'Lo says 100%. Well, as we roll into this, yeah, we study the Bible together as well, very deeply, because, of course, she is a graduate from a Seminole university, although she didn't study the Bible there, unfortunately, because that's not what you do in seminary college. Seminary colleges teach you how to run a church, but they don't teach you the Bible, which is what she thought she was going to be doing. And then she wasn't. And she found that very disappointing. And now we study together and have so for over 10 years, because we've been together. In September, we will have been together 13 years, and we will have been married 11. So it's our 11th anniversary in September. And this is our Bible. And this is actually the complete Jewish Bible is what they call it, because this version, the complete Jewish Bible, which is not expensive, directly translates from the earliest languages as closely as possible. So direct Hebrew, direct Aramaic, direct Greek translations from the earliest possible manuscripts that are available, including the Dead Sea Scrolls. And this is what we study, and it puts things in a very, very different perspective. Zane says he saw an ad before it loaded. Interesting. I must not be in trouble yet. And SDA says happy anniversary. Almost. But yeah, I mean, it's living proof. It's living proof that you can find someone that is a really excellent fit for you, that you're happy with and you remain in love with, because I don't love her any less than I did when I first met her. You know what I mean? And it can happen. It's just not that easy. You got to work at it. It takes time. But this next article is from ABC News, and I'm sure you all saw this, but we do talk about this sort of thing here, so I'll go ahead and I'll read it off. It says, Biden asks Congress for $40 billion to support Ukraine and replenish U.S. disaster aid and bolster the border. Why don't you bolster our border, Biden? It's more money, and he'll probably get it. More money. This is another one. This is from yesterday, August 10th. Washington. The Biden administration has asked Congress to provide more than $13 billion in emergency defense aid to Ukraine and an additional $8 billion for humanitarian support through the end of this year. Another massive infusion of cash as the Russian invasion wears on and Ukraine pushes a counteroffensive against the Kremlin's deeply entrenched forces. The package requested Thursday includes $12 billion to replenish U.S. federal disaster funds at home after a deadly climate season of heat and storms, and funds to bolster the enforcement of the southern border with Mexico. Oh, now you want to work on that. I was wondering. I didn't read all the way through this one yet. Including money to curb the flow of deadly fentanyl. Most of the fentanyl in this country is coming from this country, and it's coming from legal prescription drugs. All told, it's about a $40 billion package. $40 billion package. That is insane. While the last such supplement spending request from the White House for Ukraine funding was easily approved in 2022, despite reservations from Republicans. Yeah, it's always their fault, right? There's a different dynamic at this time. A political divide on the issue has steadily grown, with the Republican-led House facing enormous pressure to demonstrate support for the party's leader, Donald Trump, who has been very skeptical of the war, and American support for the effort has been slowly softening. America never had support for it. All right. The government enforced support for it and used social media to do it. They're investigating now the government's involvement with social media over the C virus and the pandemic, and altering and removing and forcing narratives. Been seeing a lot of that in the news lately. They're doing it with this as well. I'll remind you, and I think the video is still up. I did it like a year ago, where they warned us. Google and ScrewTube warned us, if you do not follow the White House press corps' narrative when talking about the Ukraine, we will shut down everything associated with the platform. You won't even have email. Okay? So, yeah, America was never behind this and can't afford it. And they'll get their money. Again, we're supporting this country. Russia would have been done. They would have been done last year. They would have been done in a couple of weeks because they wanted to annex a piece of property that requested it, as far as I can understand. And again, trying to be careful here. That's why I say, as far as I understand it. And again, who knows what the truth really is in all of this? They would have been long gone. We're keeping Ukraine on life support at the taxpayer expense. It's insane. And Cougar says, made a $10 donation. Thank you, Cougar. And he says, where is Dusty? I don't know where Dusty is. She's around here somewhere. I've got Daniel sitting in the chair behind me, but I haven't seen Dusty in a little bit. She's probably hiding. It was storming out here earlier, and Dusty and Miss Kitty get very scared. And Miss Kitty is hiding under the sofa, and I don't know where Dusty is. But thank you very much for the donation, Cougar. It means a lot. Preparedness says, wonder what the International Conflict Prevention Fund is actually doing. I don't know, because we were paying for what was some of that money going for to the Ukraine? We were paying people's pensions and stuff. It's crazy. All people said, is that the version of the same thing as the King James 1611 that so many online individuals speak of in their videos? I don't think so. No, the King James 1611 is a direct translation of the original King's English version of the King James Bible, which, if you can read, a lot of people can't even read the King's English. They don't understand it or can't follow it. It's unless they can, for example, read like Shakespeare. If they're comfortable reading Shakespeare, they can read the original King James Bible version, which is fairly accurate in a lot of areas, with the exception of the anglicizing of it. For example, calling Yeshua Jesus. Of course, Jesus is an anglicized version of the name. The real name is Yeshua. Joshua is Yeshua, and Yeshua and Yeshua are almost kind of the same name. It's a slight variation. And if anyone ever challenges you on that, especially a Jehovah's Witness, because it's not Jehovah, it's Yehovah is the name, spelled Yud with the letters Yud Hey Vav Hey in Hebrew, Yehovah or Yehovah, depending upon your pronunciation. Keep in mind there is no J in the Hebrew alphabet because they don't pronounce it in their language. Keisha says, I saw this yesterday. Where's all the money coming from? Well, from you, sweetie. You're paying for this. So am I. Everybody watching is paying for this. It's tax money. And if there isn't enough, they will find a way to get more. They love spending other people's money. Dragon says, the latest proxy war theft of taxpayer money, military industrial complex, wins again. Yeah, indeed. Monkey is here. He says, hello. One more monkey. Or more money, more money. I read it wrong. Doc says Ukraine is running out of adult fighting males. They have started conscripting 14 to 16-year-olds with little to no training. Yeah, it's getting bad, or it's been bad. And, you know, when they run out of people, guess who's going to come rescue them? We've already got boots on the ground. They just don't talk about it. Helter says wasting main and soul competition of last century, thus freeing up capacities to face any potential alien invasion or standoff with China. Money well spent. Preparedness says, wonder how much Biden will allocate to Hawaii. I bet if he ties Hawaii in there, he'll get his money. Doc says, get ready for NATO and our boys to get involved. Yeah, they're chomping at the bit. And Zane says they attacked Kiev and that Russians were completely unjustified. And then All People says it's money laundering, proxy war, globalist warmongers. Helter says, from the outside looking in, it appears just enough is supplied to Ukraine to prevent them from losing, but never enough for Ukraine to win. And All People says the ESV Bible version seems like a pretty good one, in my humble opinion. But yeah, this again, ABC News talking about another $40 billion that we don't have, while he claims that he has saved us, what, $1.7 billion, Bidenomics. Yeah, I did that. Not lying. Yeah. Isn't that what he says? Is it not lying? He says something like that. Or no fooling. He has some little idiom that he uses. Although the debt has increased by nearly 4. So where did that 1.7 comes from? Were you going to spend that and change your mind? How does that work, Biden? I don't understand. I don't understand Bidenomics. Stacy says, speaking of toxic relationships, do you think it's toxic when a man doesn't want to marry the woman he's been with? Yeah, I think it shows a lack of commitment. The former relationships, and I'll tell you, in my 2 prior relationships, I was asked to get married and I wouldn't do it. I was not married to my exes. I never married them. I didn't want to marry them. Something in there told me not to do it. But when I met my wife, I actually wanted to get married. I was like, I could actually see myself married to this woman. And so here we are. So that, in my case, that lack of commitment to jumping off into actual marriage kind of saved me, because it would have been a lot worse if there was an actual marriage. But either something, for whatever reason, if there's a lack of commitment there from either the man or the woman, it's something to consider. I would take that under consideration as to whether or not the relationship is healthy. Urban says Putin has been patiently and calmly warning the West since at least 2014 and possibly even 2004. As we continue on with our conversation, and we'll take a look at Dianne Feinstein. You remember Dianne, don't you? Dianne Feinstein. And this is a Newsweek. I've had a couple of those this week, Newsweek articles. Sometimes they do actually still talk about the news, like they did once upon a time. All people says, "Oh, that is so sweet." Well, she's a blessing, truly. And Newsweek says why Democrats don't want Dianne Feinstein to resign. Oh, I can guess. And I'm sure you know who Dianne Feinstein is. Where's her picture? Where are you, Dianne? Oh, here she is. Dianne Feinstein. There she goes. Dianne Feinstein, who does not know where she is, cannot walk, cannot see. They wheel, she was gone for a few months for like surgery or something. Is that right? And they wheel her back to Congress, and she didn't even know where she was. Do you remember this? I think I did a story. I think I did a video on this some couple of months ago. But they want to keep her. Where they want to keep her. Urban says, does it mean to call her a reptilian meat puppet? Well, she's a puppet anyway. And I'll tell you why I think they want to keep her after I read why Newsweek says they want to keep her. There she is, Dianne Feinstein, who was caught on a hot mic, just last week, somebody telling her what to say because she didn't realize where she was or what they were doing. It says concerns about the health of 90-year-old, oh, she looks older than that, Senator Dianne Feinstein have intensified, but senior Democrats may be reluctant for her to resign because of her membership in the powerful Senate Judiciary Committee and concerns that Republicans could seek to block her replacement with another Democrat. Well, that's selfish anyway, if that's even true. What difference does it make as long as they do the job, what party they're from, if it's not about the division of the party? Just asking the question here. The committee currently has 11 Democrat members versus 10 Republicans, meaning the president's party needs Feinstein's vote to avoid a tie. Earlier this month, reports said she had ceded power of attorney to her daughter in an ongoing financial dispute over the estate of her late husband, Richard Blum. The family's already fighting, and she's not even in the ground. Feinstein was also briefly hospitalized in her home state of California after a fall on Tuesday. Oh, she's injured again. She can't walk. Why she? I don't know. Maybe she fell out of her chair, sparking renewed calls for her to resign. Earlier this year, Feinstein was away from Congress for several weeks while being treated for shingles. Oh, is that what it was? I don't know why I thought she had a surgery. Frustrating the confirmation of some of President Joe Biden's judicial nominees. If Feinstein were to step aside, her replacement would be chosen by California Governor Gavin Newsom. Oh, that's awful. However, senior Republicans have refused to say whether they will obstruct their appointment to the Judiciary Committee. Typically, senators are assigned to committees by unanimous cross-party consent, but this isn't a given, and such appointments are subject to debate, which can be filibustered. Doesn't that sound like something that people should be voting for instead of them nitpicking over it and making side deals? Wow. I'll jump into some of these comments real quick. Doc says Dianne Feinstein and Biden have the same issues. Yeah, but Biden can still kind of walk, though. Kind of. Zane says Congress needs the term limits, but Congress are the ones that have to vote for those term limits, so it's not going to happen. Delo says she needs to roll her butt back into her retirement home. Yeah, she needs assisted living if she's falling. And Dragon said there should be an age limit for all politicians. After 75-year-old, you cannot be elected to any office anymore. The arrogance of many politicians and judges who believe they are irreplaceable. And it's the same argument. Again, they're the ones that would have to vote for it, and they're not going to. Helter says there's no place in modern society for old, dried-up career politicians like her and the many others. She can't do the job. She shouldn't be there. And no, she can't do the job right now. She's not capable. Urban says if it's between Feinstein and Newsom, wow, that's a tough choice. Yeah. And Doc says Gavin Newsom, Mr. Hairspray. But the reason, in my opinion, the reason they don't want to get rid of her is because they can control her. I mean, she doesn't even know where she is. Let's just be straight about it. And you've seen this, and you saw that with the hot mic too. She really is not aware of where she is at all times. She doesn't even know what she's doing at all times. So if they say vote like this, talk about this, she's going to do it because she's not in her right mind. She's just not. She's not in her right mind. If she's had to transfer a power of attorney because she's not capable of making decisions over her finances and property, then she can't make decisions in Congress either. They want her there because she's easy to control. She's a puppet at this point. Maybe she may have always been one, but she's more of one now than she ever was. So why give that up? Why would they give that up? Seriously. And Delo says that's effed up. Yeah, she's a useful tool because no matter how screwed up she is, she still has that vote. She still has that vote. And until she resigns, they can't really take it from her, but they can use it. They can use it to their advantage. No one is exempt from being used and manipulated. Even the people who do the using and the manipulating in this case. They're all open season for that. Unfortunate, though it may be. And that's where we are. That's the state of American politics for you, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell. But you can find that, again, in the politics of any country. I just happen to live in America. So I talk about a lot of what happens here. And Delo says, poor old lady. I don't know, because she could still be a crooked old lady. And this is just the end of her road. But yeah, I mean, she's being used now. But she's been a user also. Preparedness says these people never know when to give up. No. Well, who wants to give up the power? It takes a lot more honor and ethics and integrity than most of these people have to know when it's time to relinquish that power. You know what I mean? It's like the pitcher on the mound who he knows his shoulder's bothering him, but he doesn't want the reserve pitcher to come up on the mound and show him up. So he'll throw a bad pitch rather than call the coach up and say, hey, listen, rotator cuff's really getting to me right now. Why don't you let the relief guy take a couple of rounds for me here so I can ice it up or something? No, he'll stay out there and blow his shoulder out rather than give somebody else a chance. And that's just the selfishness of man right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say. Now, one of the other things that we talk about, one of the other pet peeves of mine, of which I have many, I've got a long list. I'm so sorry. Not really, but you know how it is the medical industry. And, they talk about doctors, and doctors are so wholesome and wonderful, and nurses are wholesome and wonderful, and hospitals have your best interest at heart, and pharmaceutical companies are looking out for you and all this other stuff. And to me, a lot of them are like just a bunch of crooks. I don't trust them. I don't like them. I think there are very few legitimate, caring doctors and nurses out there. And the story I'm going to show you demonstrates this in a bold way that will really shock you. And this is local news. You'll probably not see this where you are, especially if you're overseas. But this is something people need to see because it runs pretty deep. And I'm going to pick it apart after I read the article. And it's going to shock you. It might turn your stomach. Stacy says, what are your thoughts about Queen Elizabeth and the royal family in general? Do you believe the bad claims? It wouldn't surprise me because it's really, we're talking about extremely wealthy, decadent, pampered people who, even though they don't have direct power, still yield power. And it takes a great deal of morals and ethics, which have rarely ever been demonstrated in the royal family throughout its history, going way back. I mean, think about it. Cougar says, I personally think the left and right are the same. I will give them credit for one thing. The tactic of hiding something in plain sight actually works. Yeah. Or as I've said before, they're two sides of the same coin, and that coin's in someone else's pocket. Bingo says, I've been on vacation the last few days, so I don't know if you've already talked about it. Did you see Biden told the Weather Channel that he already declared a national environmental emergency? No, I don't think I saw that. Oh, Daniel's moving. See, he's alive. Hey, Daniel. He's ignoring me too. I have not seen that actually, Bingo. And then Doc says pampered is a good description. Yeah, because and that's another problem also, is they don't possibly understand, and we see a lot of this in politics as well, because many people who are in politics never experienced poverty, a lot of them never had a real job. So I mean, like Bernie Sanders, I pick on a lot because he didn't work until he was 40, and his first job was as mayor of a sleepy town in New Hampshire, a little one-horse town in New Hampshire. What do these people know about your problems or my problems or our struggles or our hardships or our fears, or what it's like to have the government breathing down your neck, or debt collectors, or anything else? They're out of touch. They're dangerously out of touch. And so is the royal family. But we'll go ahead and we'll pull up this next article. And this is scary. And what's even more scary is how we got to the point of this coming out. And this is NBC News Atlanta. NBC News Atlanta. Georgia doctor decapitated baby during delivery, according to lawsuit. Yes, this happened. And it gets worse. It gets worse. Atlanta, a doctor used too much force and decapitated a Georgia woman's baby during delivery, according to a lawsuit attorneys said was filed Wednesday. The baby's mother and father, Jessica Ross and Trevon Isaiah Taylor Sr., attended a news conference in Atlanta where their attorneys announced the lawsuit against Dr. Tracy St. Julian and Southern Regional Medical Center, a hospital in Riverdale, Georgia, where Ross went on July 9th to have her son. Riverdale is about 13 miles south of Atlanta. Yeah, that's just a quote. That's not important. I'm trying to get down here to the meat of it. Calls to St. Julian's offices went unanswered. Oh, maybe I should read it. They were so excited about the birth of their first child. I guess this is them here. They look pretty young. Said attorney Corey Lynch, that's him. Unfortunately, their dreams and hopes turned into a nightmare that was covered up by Southern Regional Medical Center. Now, this is the direction I'm going in. Calls to St. Julian's office went unanswered, and an email message was not immediately returned. The Associated Press was not able to determine whether she had an attorney. Southern Regional said in statements it could not discuss treatment for particular patients due to privacy laws. It denies the allegations against it, and offers heartfelt thoughts and prayers for Ross and Taylor and their care providers. Our commitment is to provide compassionate, quality care to every single patient, and this loss is heartbreaking, the hospital said. It later added that St. Julian was not an employee of the hospital. How convenient. And it had taken the appropriate steps in response to this unfortunate situation. A spokeswoman, Kimberly Gold-Benner, said the hospital could not elaborate. St. Julian is part of a healthcare group called Premier Women's OBGYN that has 2 locations and offers circumcisions, infertility treatment, and other services, in addition to low and high risk obstetric care, according to its website. And that's probably because she's kind of thick there. I bet she was overweight. St. Julian is a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist who's been practicing in Atlanta since 2005. According to the suit, the baby got stuck during delivery. St. Julian delayed a surgical procedure and failed to seek help quickly. Instead, she applied ridiculously excessive force on the baby's head and neck. Said attorney Robert Edmond, who is also a physician. Roughly 3 hours passed before St. Julius took Ross 20 for a cesarean section, according to the suit. By then, a fetal monitor had stopped registering a heartbeat. The cesarean section removed the baby's legs and body, but the head was delivered vaginally. The couple asked for a cesarean earlier when the baby still could have survived and was denied. Where's the rest of this? Because I read a couple of articles on this, and I'll tell you there's something missing here, and I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is. I'll catch up a couple of the comments here. Zane says we need to understand the context. Fluke says if the law requires you to give up your driver's license because of your age, then there are certain things they should take away from you. You shouldn't be allowed to stay as a cop, medical, etc., not just politicians. Yeah. You're still talking about the previous comments here, I guess. And Doc says Bernie Sanders recently transferred $200,000 from his campaign account to his family non-for-profit. I bet. And Zane says when we look at doctors, they have qualified immunity. And Urban says the worst thing I ever heard of doctors doing was in Ireland using the barbaric symphocytomy technique on birthing women to avoid a C-section. And Hawaiian Preppers is here. He says, aloha, I made it. And Dragon says, I really don't see a good explanation for a baby being decapitated in the hospital, discouraging an autopsy. It goes deeper than that, Dragon. I'm going to read it in a second. The doctor made a horrible mistake with forceps during a difficult birth. Best case scenario, it's a terrible accident, but the doctor should still lose her license. Here's the thing. It was covered up. What they did was they put the baby back together and wrapped its neck, swaddled it to make it appear. This is what I read in a couple of other articles, so that it looked like it was intact. And the parents didn't know, but they were suspicious, and they wanted an autopsy report. The hospital refused. The hospital administration wouldn't let them have it. That's why they got involved with an attorney in the first place. They got an autopsy report, found out it was a full-on decapitation, and that when they did a cesarean, they actually did a cesarean of the torso. The head was already removed. So here, it's not just the doctor here. And this is what I'm talking about. You have the doctor who, regardless if she's from a clinic not that works with the hospital and not an employee of the hospital, is irrelevant, because half the doctors in the hospital are working there from some other clinic or private practice. Okay. That's how hospitals operate. They have very few of their own doctors on staff. So you have the doctor, whatever interns and whatever nurses were present. And I guarantee everybody on that floor knew what the hell happened when it happened, because they talk. The hospital administration all covered this up. And buried it. They hid this. All of them hid this. And we're supposed to trust the hospitals and the doctors. Urban says hospitals have an unspoken negative quota to avoid C-sections at all costs. Yeah, not only that, but you got to get stuck with the woman for a couple of days too. So this is a massive cover-up. This is a massive cover-up, unfortunately. And if you give me 2 seconds here, that signal means please open the door. Hold on. Sorry for the interruption, folks. Let me catch up a couple of the comments here. Keisha says, I thought doctors wanted to do a lot of cesareans because it gets the birth over faster. And Doc says there are some people that need to be taken to the woods for Azazel. Do you know what I'm saying? Some people are pure evil. Yeah, I mean, how do you cover that up? And that's terrible that happens, but at least be honest about it. For God's sakes, be honest about it. It's terrifying. Yeah, Dilo says that's effed up, poor children, indeed. And then Fluke Man says, how do they put the baby back together? Well, basically, you set it together and swaddle it and lay it down. They didn't pick the baby back up. They were just shown this. So, I mean, you swaddle it so it looks like it's, wrapped up, and just looking wouldn't know the difference. That's what's being said. Helta says this isn't unheard of. Unfortunately, they said that this is unfortunate, but with the mother being short, this can happen when the baby is too big for the mother. Yeah. And Zane says, yep, hospitals are a business. And as a business, they are shady. And Loyal says, practice makes perfect. But that's a very unfortunate situation. It is not unique. And it also makes you wonder how much is covered up in other instances. What else do they lie about? What else do they cover up? What else do they decide not to disclose to people and keep hidden from people? That's frightening. That is frightening. And the person who had the biblical question didn't show up here today, did they? They didn't show up here today, and I'm at the end of the show pretty much. Urban says there's a 1989 Australian film called Malpractice that details the events of a difficult birth and the legal aftermath. And Zane says, my best guess is the doctor didn't mean to kill the baby. They most likely rushed the delivery due to confirmation bias. I'm sure she didn't mean to kill it, but that's what happened. That's what happened regardless. And Loyal says medical malpractice. It is absolutely medical malpractice. It's and it's going to stem far beyond, because like I said, there's no way that happened in their hospital, and everyone who was working in OBGYN that day didn't know about it, as well as the hospital administration. All of those people, everyone who was there, everyone who knew is accountable. Whether or not they're held accountable, that remains to be seen. And unfortunately, it's very likely that, especially since these are young people, they'll settle out of court and then you never hear about this again. Instead of it being fully exposed, at which point the hospital administration and pretty much every employee that was working in OBGYN that day would lose their jobs. Keisha says there have been videos of medical staff driving patients that have run out of insurance off and putting them in the street. That's true. And Zane says doctors often start to rush things or respond slower to emergency medical calls due to confirmation bias. But that's the unfortunate reality. And I guess I can hold on to the biblical question until Monday. Is that person didn't come back. I invited them to come back, and I thought I would have time to get to it, but I did not, because we are past the hour. I'll remind you also that you can find me on Fistful of Radio, fistfulofradio.com, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m., and then on Friday at noon now, apparently. And of course, if you're listening and not watching, it's at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, and also shared on Prepper University, 2 channels that are getting hammered into the ground by ScrewTube. Really getting hammered. It's crazy what they're putting me through here. But I'm still able to broadcast, and as long as I'm still able to broadcast, I will keep doing this. Apparently, a lot of people seem to like it. Fluke Man says there's a private company saying they're going to offer artificial birth. Fetus will be grown in pods. Actually, I covered it. I did a video on that a few months back. I talked about it in detail. There's a lot of scary aspects and nuances to that whole concept. And Dilo says, I love it. Okay. Thank you, Dilo. I guess you're talking about the show. I hope you are. But yeah, and again, thank you to everybody who made a donation. It means a lot. Anytime anybody makes a donation to the channel, it's very helpful. And of course, thank you to everybody who has helped thus far with the GoFundMe. And I'll see about doing another update on the GoFundMe here soon, so that people will know where we are at with our felines. So I'll go ahead and sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hope you have a good day, and I guess I will see you coming Monday, folks.